DJI's Avinox motor blew the industry to pieces when they launched, with 1,000 watts of power and 120 Newton meters of torque, way surpassing anything else out there on the market.
Yeah, arguably that motor there has totally done over Bosch's Performance Line CXR.
The question is though, is that motor still relevant? How good is it and how does it compare to the Avinox out on the trail? Let's go find out. Around a year ago, DJI released the Avinox motor and everyone was super impressed. Loads of power, loads of torque, great controllability, and the UI was also pretty cool. Early this year though, Bosch did update the CXR, or the CX race motor, giving it some more performance that brought it kind of closer to what DJI was offering. Alex, you've been riding both these motors for a little while now, and you are our resident expert on the all things e-bike. So in this video, we're going to talk about the different motors, their performance aspects, and how they ride on the trail to find out which is the best. But first, we're going to start off with the 5 things you need to know about these two motors.
Number 1, it's got 750 watts of power, 100 Newton meters of torque, and a 400% support ratio. This is also the same as the standard Performance Line motor. Number 2, the batteries. There are loads of options for the Bosch. There's a 625 watt hour, a 600 watt hour, a 750, even an 800. And there's a 250 watt hour range extender that can be fitted on any smart system Bosch powered bike. Number 3, there are loads of different system controllers and displays for the Bosch bikes. That means any manufacturer can customize what they want depending on their specific needs. However, a big one here, you can't customize the bike's modes from the display. You have to do that on the app. Number 4, the smartphone app. Within Bosch's Flow app, you can customize the ride modes, input navigation, and even lock your bike to prevent it from being stolen. Number 5, the race motor. This thing has got a magnesium casing, a titanium spindle, and ceramic bearings, plus a special race tune that's got more overrun and more sensitivity to pedal inputs. Now for the Avinox motor. Number 1, this has got 105 Newton meters of continuous torque or 120 Newton meters of limited time torque. It's got 1,000 watts of max power and an 800% support ratio. Number 2, Amflow only offers 2 battery types, an 800 watt hour fitted to this bike and a 600 watt hour for a slightly lighter weight. Number 3, it's got an inbuilt touchscreen display. And on that screen, you can do loads of things, including customizing the support ratios and the assistance modes. Number 4, the smartphone app. Now on the smartphone app, you can tune the motor to your heart's content, and there are extra features like battery health monitoring, theft protection, and other things such as freewheel shifting. Number 5, the Avinox has got 2 sets of buttons. There's one for changing assistance and controlling things like walk mode, and the other cycles through the display's functions.
All right, let's get on to the performance. Now, Al, when we're testing products here at MBUK, we always back to back to back. When you did the tyres the other day, same tyres, same rim, same bike, back to back to see how they perform. Why didn't you do that with the motors?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's pretty obvious really. It is impossible to put the same motor on the same bike, especially when that bike is designed around a different motor, as you can see here with the Avinox and the Bosch system. So what we did was try and get the bikes as close as possible. That includes the weight, the geometry, the suspension, and for the most part, the components. And I think we've done quite a good job with Pivot Shuttle AM and the Amflow.
Okay, so when we're talking about motors, Al, the first thing people really want to know is how much power has it got and how does it feel when you're on the trail?
The Avinox to the Bosch is like a budget car to the more expensive executive model. The motor's power is creamy, beautifully delivered. Now that's not to say that the Bosch is bad, but this thing, holy moly, DJI has done their work on the algorithm. The biggest compliment for an e-bike in my mind is that it feels like a human would output their power. There's no surprises, there's nothing electronic, nothing binary about how that bike works. And the DJI, the Amflow, the Avinox, it captures that perfectly. You pedal and it gives you the exact amount of power and energy that you're expecting at the exact time. Now, okay, it's amplifying your human input by a huge amount, but it's exactly in the way that your body would do it. It just introduces its power in such a progressive, tapered and controllable way.
Okay, so that's the Amflow. Tell us about the Bosch then. Is this some sort of like horrible jerky, like brah sort of thing, or?
Yes, with one caveat, and that's in the race mode. This thing is quite the bucking bronco to control when you're in that setting. Tone it back down to turbo, even with everything turned up in the app. And actually, the Bosch is as close to the Ampflo as you can probably get in terms of human-like power delivery. It's certainly as good as the Ampflo, just with less power.
When you say like with less power, like what does that mean on the trail?
Yeah, okay, so for example, like a super technical uphill climb, the Bosch bike, you know, you're definitely working, your heart rate's climbing, you're having to concentrate, your elbows are down, you're pulling through the handlebars. On the Avinox motor, there's much less human input for the same output.
Okay.
So in order to climb that super gnarly bit, you can concentrate a little bit more about where your tyres are being placed, less about how much energy you're having to put into the bike.
Okay, so I've ridden obviously both these motors myself a little bit. I was riding that in Finale, that motor in Finale, and you know when you're sort of like in a long bermed corner, you just want to sort of like readjust your feet. A bucket load of power into the back wheel and I just went brrrr, like that, and it didn't feel the most refined.
No, absolutely. And you know, with that race mode engaged, you're potentially having to brake in the middle of corners or on downhill sections when you're doing like quarter pedals just to readjust where your feet are, which isn't ideal. The Ampflo, the DJI, the Avinox, on the other hand, even when it's in its time limited boost setting, it still doesn't do that. Okay. Like there isn't that like binary on-off nature to it. It's the most analog digital thing that you can get out there.
Right. We've talked a lot about when we're in sort of race mode or turbo and all the other ones. Do you want to quickly talk about when you're in sort of the more mellow settings? Because we don't always ride everywhere in turbo.
You know, absolutely not. The Ampflo's kind of middle settings, they are still really good. There's auto, which is probably actually the best. So if you ever find the turbo or the boost mode is too much for you, dip the bike back down to auto, and you know, you can get up pretty much any climb with the bike in auto. It takes into account, you know, the angle of the bike, the cadence that you're putting in, the power, the speed, all of the sensors, and it tunes the motor's assistance accordingly. And auto is genuinely really good on that thing.
And this has eMTB or eMTB Plus mode?
Yeah, it's got eMTB Plus, it's got Tour Plus, which are kind of the same thing, but one gives you more power than the other. Again, it does the kind of same thing as Ampflo's auto mode. This also feels really natural and really controllable. Okay. Again, it just doesn't quite have that same peak power.
Okay, Al, so we talked quite a bit about power, but can you just sum it up in as few sentences as possible?
On the Bosch, if you're facing what you think is an insurmountable climb, chances have it that you probably won't make it. The extra power on that Ampflo, it just gives you the confidence, it gives you the ability just to push that little bit further. Imagine there's like a rock or a root step, something really chunky. You can rely on this bike to help get you over it. It's genuinely surprising.
Now, as a wise man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. Now, if you've got so much power and torque coming from both of these motors, really, how are they controlled? How easy is it to make sure that you're not sort of spitting dirt and having a bad time?
On the Avinox, you really need to employ some advanced riding techniques. Now, that's not to blow my own trumpet, but imagine you're going up a super slippy technical climb, and to try and just keep everything riding as you want it to, you need to feather the back brake, you need to lift the front wheel, you can pick and choose the lines. And while that might sound like it actually is a bit hard to ride, what this really means is that the bike is doing so much of the effort for you that you can concentrate on really engaging with it. And this is the same if you're on the descents with like, you know, a cross-country bike versus a downhill bike, where a downhill bike is going to be so much easier to ride on the downhills and you can pick and choose your lines. It's the same thing with the Avinox. The Bosch, yes, you still can do those things, but you're going to be going at a lower speed. So your effort is going to be increased in order to maintain that power. That means that you're going to be focusing harder on driving the bike forwards over having fun.
Can you just clarify something for me? In the UK, both of these bikes have to adhere to that 25 km/h maximum speed, but you just kind of said that this is the faster bike everywhere. How does that work?
Yeah, the Avinox is faster, regardless of whether you're going up a fire road or through a gnarly single track. It's basically because of that support ratio and the amount of power and torque that it's got. So you can sit at the speed limit on this thing, and the power doesn't taper off until you get over the speed limit. On the Bosch, this is true to an extent, especially in the race mode, but you're having to work a little bit harder just to keep it there because the power tapers off as you get closer to that speed limit.
And the support ratio is 400% on that. So to hit that sort of 1000 watts, you need to be doing somewhere in the region of 200 watts yourself.
Yeah.
So everything you've just said for the past couple of minutes sounds pretty impressive when it comes to this motor, more so than the Bosch. How are they doing it?
It all comes down to the sensors and the software. Each brand, they're quite coy about the amount of sensors that they use and where they use that information. So whether that's coming from torque, cadence, speed, no doubt it's an amalgamation of all of them. I remember there was one Bosch press release when they said that the motor's actually measuring things in multiple dimensions. I'm not sure whether they meant another planet or another world, but there's definitely lots of sensors going on. Now, one thing I will note is that on the Avinox motor, there's a speed magnet at the rear disc, and this measures speed 42 times per wheel revolution. The Bosch motor, on the other hand, only measures it once.
Okay, so what you're saying is, while we don't really know what goes on within the motors, what we do know is that per revolution there is 42 times more speed info for the DJI than the Bosch, and that has to play into how it feels on the trail.
It totally does, because the DJI motor is able to change exactly how it's outputting that power according to what the back wheel's doing. So as soon as that back wheel spins and slips, it knows instantly and the motor will cut power.
I want to just quickly loop back to support ratio, something you mentioned a minute or two ago. What does that mean then in terms of sort of performance of the motors?
The support ratio is super important, I think. Like, that really defines the difference between these two bikes. Imagine 100 watts for an average fit mountain biker. That's not a great deal. You're putting 100 watts in on this thing. You've got a combined bike-human power output of 900 watts.
Up to, if you're in like...
Exactly, up to,
yeah.
And for the Bosch, it's the same thing, but the figure is lower. It's 500 watts, which is just over half as much. Now, this is super important when you think about your average e-bike loop. What this means in terms of the different support ratios, on the Bosch, I was riding between 5 and 7 kilometers an hour slower than the Avinox motor, and my heart rate was between 10 and 20 beats per minute higher on the Bosch than the Avinox. On the same test loops, ridden at the same cadence, the same power input from me, because you can see that on the displays on the two bikes, so it's pretty easy to make it even.
Well, that's pretty conclusive.
Yeah, it's really massive, and that support ratio, it's so defining about how these two bikes feel.
With these two bikes, what are the battery sizes in them and how does this relate to battery life?
Both our bikes have got 800 watt-hour batteries, but it won't be surprising to anybody that when set to their maximum modes, so turbo and race, the Avinox ran out of battery sooner because it's got more power and torque. It lasted 1,170 meters of climbing over 30-ish kilometers. The Bosch, on the other hand, lasted 1,450 meters over 35 kilometers.
Okay, so there's about a 40% difference.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about testing with back-to-backing, was there a way to sort of make this act the same as that, and did that have an impact on battery life?
The support ratio is out of 15 on the Avinox, so I halved that, basically turned it down to 8, which then gave you the same support ratio as the Bosch, and I reduced Newton meters to 100 and watts to 750. Out on the trails with it set to 8 out of 15, it didn't feel or ride the same as the Bosch did in its max mode. It didn't have the same amount of power. In the end, I ended up turning up to 11 out of 15, which gave the bikes the most comparable feel. In this setting, the Avinox actually only lasted 100 meters less than Bosch's figure. So it managed 1,350 meters of ascent over a full charge, whereas this is 100 meters more. Okay,
so it sounds like the Bosch motor is actually a more efficient motor. Does that play through when you're riding it without any assistance? Does this feel more soupy than that one?
It totally 100% does, okay. Yeah. The Bosch is actually no different to riding your normal bike with the motor off, once you got used to that extra weight.
Okay, so it's like a broth.
Yeah, yeah, like a broth, like a nice tasty beef stew.
Whereas this is quite a nice thick, meaty winter soup.
Yeah, it's got some meat to it. You definitely notice when that thing's turned off. And I think that could be one of the reasons why it's getting less battery life.
Okay, because there's more resistance to be sort of pushed through. Yeah. Are there any other issues then with these bikes?
Yeah, there totally are. The Bosch Mini Remote is super fragile. It's really easy to break when the bike's upside down. I've broken quite a few, sorry to everybody that I've requested a new one from. The other thing is you need to have the smartphone app if you want to customize any of your modes on the Bosch bike. Yes, you can select your different modes here, but if you want to make any changes to them, that app is mandatory. Likewise, on the DJI, the first registration of the bike, if you want to ride it more than 100 total kilometers, you have to register your bike on the smartphone app. Once you've done that, you can delete the app, but you have to have it in the first place.
Okay, so you kind of have to give your data away to DJI.
Yep.
So if you're not a big fan of like advertising the fact that you're riding an e-bike as you're coming up behind someone at a trail centre, which is the most stealthy of these bikes?
These two are actually pretty much for muchness in terms of noise. They are very quiet. It's more of a high-pitched whine than a turkey gobble of the Shimano EP8 or a slightly noisier belt-driven on the Specialized motors. These are super quiet. Even when you're at full chat, I was actually quite surprised. So no complaints for me. I think, you know, pick one or the other, it doesn't matter.
Right, so it sounds like basically just buy the DJI bike.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So it's super important what bike that motor is attached to. Now, I would always recommend that you prioritize the bike ahead of the motor, within reason, as long as the motor's either a Bosch or a DJI.
Okay. So reading between the lines, as a bike, did you prefer the Pivot over the Anthem?
Just from personal experiences, yes, I was gagging to get out on the Pivot more often than the Anthem. Now, that's not to say they won't be right for you, but as with any big purchase, try before you buy.
There are quite a few more bikes coming out with the Dji Avinox motor over the next sort of few months, and there's some pretty exciting ones as well.
Yep, and Bosch is really established in the market already, so it's a known quantity for many different reasons, whether that's backup, service, but also the number of models of Bosch bike available is vast. There are so many bikes out there with this system on it.
Now that's the reviews done, but I think we can all read between the lines, Al. You do absolutely love the motor from DJI, but let's sum it all up.
Yeah, there is no denying that this thing is so much better than all the other motors out on the market. It's more powerful, it feels better, it's got amazing battery life, it's so light, and it is just really, really good. That's not to say, however, that the Bosch is bad. It is by far and away the best of the rest. So if you're considering any other e-bike motor, I would always go for the Bosch. But out of the Bosch and the Avinox, it's 100% the Avinox every time.
Al, thanks so much for spending all this time in this inclement weather testing these motors. If you've enjoyed the video, of course, give it a like, subscribe, and if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments down below. On screen now is Rob's review of the Specialized Turbo Level 4, another incredible e-mountain bike.